Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Farida here, and today we're going to be discussing The Girl in the Spider's Web. And I was like kind of into this movie. I didn't really know where it was going until Lisbeth turned into Batman and her sister turned into freaking Jeffree Star. After that, I was like, this movie's too long. I've had my popcorn, I've had my drink. Like, come on, let's get this over with because it's going to places that it just doesn't need to be. Stay tuned to hear my thoughts and cue the intro. So this movie is actually a soft reboot of The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo from 2011. It was directed by David Fincher, but for some reason this time around, David Fincher and Rooney Mara, they just weren't on board. And after watching it, Rooney Mara, I get it. I mean, you got an Academy Award once, why tarnish it with a script that's just okay? So yeah, they didn't come back, and this time we have Claire Foy, who is our queen, of course. And when I found out that she was going to be in this movie, I was actually a little surprised. I mean, she rocks it in The Queen, and she is brilliant, but I don't know if I really saw her as Lisbeth Salander, but she proves me wrong. She's great. And then, of course, we have Fede Alvarez, who directed one of my favorite films of last year, which is Don't Breathe. So I was very much looking forward to this film, and only to be not mildly disappointed, but just, it's just okay. So in this film, we find Lisbeth Salander. She is back to her old ways. Beginning of the film, we find her. She's setting up this banker who abuses prostitutes and his wife. And, of course, she's in his apartment, basically beating him up and transferring all of his funds to his wife and to other people who are not him. And then, of course, threatens him to release videos. So she's up to her hacker ways. And then she gets a job opportunity. She is contacted by an ex-NSA agent who was fired because he created a program that it's your stereotypical kind of Bond villain kind of theme, in the sense that the weapon is a super weapon that it can be controlled by any laptop in the world. It can only be moved, not replicated. And basically, if you have control, you have control to every single nuclear weapon in the world. It's very, very generic, but that's the premise. And so normally this isn't her thing. She's into the woman saving women who were abused and battered, but she decides to take the job. So what she does is overnight, she hacks into the NSA, which brings the attention to an NSA agent in America, who is played by Lakeith Stanfield. And he sees that they've been hacked, so he decides to go to Stockholm to trace her down. So she's got the file. Again, it can only be moved and not replicated. So in the middle of the night, while she's taking a bath, some Russian hackers, spies, thugs break into her apartment, blow it up, and end up stealing the computer. And so the NSA agent who originally hired her, the one that was fired, thinks that he's kind of been set up a little bit. He doesn't trust her, so he goes into a safe house. And in the safe house, he's there with his son, and his son is the only one who can open and use this computer software because he's a genius and he's the one that they need in order to use the weapon. And then from there, I mean, it's your typical spy thing. There's nothing really special about this film. One thing that I enjoyed and that I liked is that we got a little bit more of Lisbeth's background. We see that she had a very abusive father along with a sister who decided to stay with the dad instead of leave home when they were children. I thought that was interesting. And of course, we get Claire Foy, who is the anchor of this film. This film would be nothing without her. This film needs her. I mean, you see another side of her that you didn't think we could ever get, and she is just fantastic. But other than that, the movie is not bad. It's just very, very generic. It reminded me of a Bond film that we would have seen from Pierce Brosnan, right? You have an evil villain, you got Russian spies, and it just doesn't give you that gusto and gut that I think Lisbeth Salander deserves. And you can have a generic plot if you have good dialogue and you also have good direction. So that was the most disappointing part for me about this, was I thought that Fede Alvarez was going to have this project, was probably the biggest project that he's had in his kind of short directorial career. And I was super disappointed because I felt like he was trying really hard to make it a thriller. If you watch Don't Breathe, you know that he is brilliant at making sort of like a horror thriller in terms of having that intensity, and this film just didn't have it. You could tell that he had never really directed action scenes before. The scenes were clunky. You couldn't really see in some parts what was going on. A lot of the shots that you were supposed to be shocked, like something happens in the film and you're supposed to be surprised, like, oh, I didn't see that from before, but it was so obvious. I was like, Fetty, I mean, if you don't be so clunky, don't be so obvious. A thriller like this, especially if you want to make it a spy thriller and you want to make it feel like kind of a Elizabeth kind of had like a Bruce Wayne feel. It was strange to me. I was like, is this supposed to be Batman? She's driving a black car like Batman. It looked like the Batmobile. Some of the stunts she had her own Bat Cave. It was very, very strange for me. I didn't really know what was going on and why they were taking Lisbeth in this direction. And the guy who plays Michael Blomkvist, of course, is the one who's played by Daniel Craig before and who is the journalist. I mean, they were all the actors were fine. Lakeith Stanfield was great and the acting was fine, but I just think the problem with this film was Fetty, and that's such a bummer for me because I think that he is fantastic and I think that he has potential, but maybe he just took on a project that was a little bit too large for him, or maybe he took on a thriller and action and he didn't execute as well as he should have. So for me, this movie, it's just okay. If you have the option of going to see it in the theater, renting, or not seeing it all, I don't say skip it, because if you're interested in a series, period, then yeah, you should watch it. But I would say rent it. Don't spend your hard-earned money because it's not that serious. Unless you really want to see Claire Foy kick some ass. Yeah, and then we just won't go into that, sister, because I'm telling you guys, I was like, that there's just no way that they just did her makeup like Jeffree Star like that. It just was completely distracting, and at that point, I'm telling you, I was just done. So be sure to tell me your thoughts down below. Did you see it? Did you not see it? Are you not into these kind of like remakes? We've already gotten a lot of these Lisbeth Salander stories on film, and I think I'm done. Like, I'm good. I really don't need any more. So be sure to like, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.